Hello students, today we are going to discuss the topic financial planning. So let's just discuss what is financial planning first in a layman's term. Financial planning, okay, the planning of your finances. The planning of an organization's finances is financial planning. The financial planning term is not isolated or is not discretely used for financial planning for the organizations only. Financial planning can be done by anybody. It can be used for an individual also, right? So what exactly is financial planning is? You are planning your money, you are planning your funds, your finances. That is, where are you getting the money from and where you are putting your money in. So financial planning, let's discuss from the perspective of an individual first. See, now suppose you want to buy a car and you are an employee of an organization. So the objective here becomes that you want to buy a car. For that you have to do financial planning. That is, you have decided where you want to put your money in. Now what decisions you have to make is you have to decide where you're going to source this money from. Suppose you're working as an employee, so you're getting a salary. You also take tuitions, so you're getting that income. You have a house on rent, so you're getting that income also. So you can take money from all these incomes, combine them and invest in buying a car. So that becomes your financial planning. That is, you're deciding in advance where you're going to source your money from to put it into whatever you want to do, whatever you want to achieve by that financial planning. Okay, so similarly for the organizations need money to run their business. They need money to buy fixed assets. They need money to buy to make day-to-day decisions. That is, they need money for working capital. So when organizations need money, it becomes necessary for the organizations to make financial plans. That is, where are they going to get the money from? All the organizations have objectives, right? That is, organizations first set their objectives for what they are going to do further in the organizations. Why are they working? What are their ultimate goal, right? So to achieve that ultimate goal, they need to have money, and for having that money, they need to source that money from different sources. They may have some money with themselves that they can put in the business, but that also has to be decided by the organizations, that where they are going to source this money from. Okay, so let's discuss in detail what financial planning is. It is the process of determining the objectives, policies, procedures, programs, and budgets to deal with the financial activities of an enterprise. So, what we are talking here about is that financial planning helps the organization manage its financial activities. Financial activities is any activity which would require money: investments, buying of assets, working capital financing. All these activities that require money will be supported by financial planning. Okay, so it is a process of determining the objectives of the financial planning. These objectives have to be synced with the organizational objectives. That is, whatever is your organizational objectives, your financial objectives will be in the synchronization of that objective. Suppose the objective, the main objective of your organization is to increase the production of the organization, okay, by 10%. So to increase this production, they will require more plants, or they will require to invest in a plant. They will require to invest in good technology. They would be required to invest in more machineries, high tech machineries. So that becomes your financial objective also, to buy high tech machines, to invest in technology, upgraded technology, to buy a plant. That becomes your financial objectives, or to invest in some high tech or to invest in some high tech technology, okay, or to invest in some further shares or bonds, so that you can get money from there, okay. That becomes the objective of your financial planning. Now, policies. Policies are general guidelines of the organizations on sourcing the funds. Okay, every organization has general guidelines from where they are going to source the funds and how they are going to do it. That becomes your policies. The policies, procedures, and programs are will answer your question how. That is how and from where are you going to source the funds. Are you going to source the funds from equity shares? Are you going to source the funds from debentures? Or do you have enough retained earnings? Will you take loan from banks, or will you take loan from public deposits? All these questions will be answered in your policies, procedures, and programs of financial planning. Okay, then comes your budget. Budget is all the deciding in advance what will be the intake and outflow of the funds in your organization. So financial planning will involve all these activities, all these steps to be taken in advance, so that they can support your financial activities, okay. So let's move on to the second point. Proper financial planning is necessary to enable the business enterprises to have the right amount of capital. So what financial planning exactly does is, it will help you in planning in advance whatever objectives you have set. It will plan in advance how much money do you require in the organization. Whatever amount of money you require in the organization will be set aside and will be sourced from different sources of financing. That's how you're going to always have appropriate amount of money in your organization for achieving all your objectives. Suppose you have not made financial plans, okay, suppose you are living in ambiguity. You have set objectives, but you don't know where you are going to source your finances from, or how much money you require. There will always be an imbalance between how much money you require and how much money you have in the organization, because you have not decided in advance how much money is there should be in the organization. See, having excess money in the organization leads to a cost. Suppose you have more money through equity in your organization, right? What will be the disadvantage of this would be that you would have to pay more dividend on the money that you're not even utilizing, right? That's why it is disadvantageous for the company for having more money than they actually require, okay. And next, suppose another situation, suppose you require more money but you have sourced less money from different sources of finances. So what would be the disadvantageous situation here? It would be that you don't have enough money to operate your business, to smoothly run your business, to achieve your objectives. And the purpose here, the whole purpose here fails, that of sourcing money from outside, sourcing money from different areas. Okay, so that's why financial planning is very important, to have the right amount of money in the organization, exactly that amount of money that you're going to require in the organization to achieve your objectives. Okay, so financial planning involves taking certain important decisions so that funds are continuously available to the company and are used efficiently. Okay, so when you are planning your finances, the funds will be continuously available to you. That is, you have already planned in advance that if this situation comes, where are we going to where are we going to source our finance? If this situations come, if that situation come, where are we going to source our finances from? Okay, and whatever finances you have, because you have already decided in advance where you are going to utilize these funds, it becomes easier for you to utilize those funds in the area that you have already decided in. Suppose you have sourced the finance but you don't know where to use the finance, so that fine, that those funds can may be utilized in the areas not required, or in unnecessary areas, or in wasteful activities. That's why it is very important that you plan your finances. Okay, so let's move further. Elements of financial planning. Elements of financial planning means what are the elements that should be there in financial planning? First is determination of financial objective. So we have, as we have discussed earlier, determination of financial objectives here means that you have to determine the organizational objectives and then determine according to the organizational objectives what your financial objectives are going to be. Okay, so is your financial objective to invest in various plants, machineries? Is your financial does your financial objective also include paying dividends, paying interest? So these all are your financial objectives. That is, why do you need finance in your organization? Okay, that is your financial objective. Next is estimation of capital requirement. So because now you have set a financial objective, that where you need to put these finances in, now you have to decide what are the estimations of your capital requirement. How much capital are you going to require? What kind of money are you going to require? Okay, so this can be further divided into two parts, that is fixed capital requirement and working capital requirement. Fixed capital requirement means you are going to block your funds for a longer period of time here. Okay, so you have to accordingly plan from where you are going to source your money. For example, in equity shares, the money is with you for a longer period of time. Okay, so you can take equity shares to invest in your fixed capital. For working capital, you can take short-term loans, okay, to finance your working capital. So here you are determining what is going to be the requirement of money in your organization, and further, how much money do you require for fixed capital, and how much money do you require for working capital. The next step here is determination of the kinds of securities to be issued. What kind of securities you are going to issue? That is, are you going to take equity? Are you going to take debentures? Are you going to take preference shares, bank loans? Are you going to take short-term credit for the working capital like trade credit, factoring? What are you going to do? What kind of securities you're going to take is comes under this point. Okay, then is formulation of financial policies. Like we already discussed, the policies are the general guidelines And formulation of financial policies is the general guidelines relating to the borrowing, lending and cash control. How much liquidity should be there in your organization at all times? What are your policies relating to the borrowing of the funds? What are your policies relating to the lending of the funds will be required by the organizations when they are doing financial planning. Okay, let's move on further. Importance of financial planning. So financial planning, as we have discussed till now, financial planning is very important for any organization running any kind of business. Financial planning is very important for them. If they do not plan their finances, they are going to live in an ambiguous situation where they do not know how much funds they require and how much funds are they going to require in future. Okay, that will either create a condition of undercapitalization or overcapitalization. In both cases, as we discussed, the company is at loss. So why is financial planning important? Let's discuss in detail. So the first point says financial planning provides policies and procedures for the sound administration of the finance function. What this means is that, like we already discussed, the policies and procedures are set while you are planning for your policy for your finances. Okay, so for a sound administration of financial function, the policies, the general guidelines of how you're going to use your finances, your funds is set. What will be your policies relating to the uh, borrowing? What will be your policies relating to the uh, lending? What would be your dividend? What would be your policies relating to the dividend? What would be your policies relating to the interest? All these will be mentioned in advance so that in future you do not face, the organization does not face any problem relating to their funds or relating to their finances. Okay, next is financial planning results in preparation of plans for the future. Thus new projects could be undertaken smoothly. Okay, here what the point is talking about is that preparation for the future is done through financial planning. It is not just about what funds we require right now. Financial planning is in advance. We are deciding what to do in future, right? So in advance we are deciding, if a project comes up, what kind of money are we going to require and from where, and how much money are we going to source. That is, you now, when a new project comes up, you do not leave that project, or you do not take up that project only because you do not have funds. You take that project up because through financial planning you have already decided from where you are going to source the funds, and how and smoothly that project can be run. Okay, next is uncertainty about the availability of fund is reduced. It ensures stability of business operations. See, through financial planning, you're planning in advance where you're going to source your funds from. So uncertainty about the funds, where the funds are going to come from, is reduced, and thus there is stability in operations. Okay, that is, if suppose you have planned in advance that whatever operation we are going to take up, this much amount of funds we can easily obtain from equity, this much amount we can take it from debentures, and whatever is left we can take from preference shares. Okay, these are the sources we can take the funds from. So now when you are running your operations, you never face a problem of uncertainty of availability of funds. You always have funds in your organization. Next point, financial planning attempts to achieve a balance between the inflow and outflow of funds. So that means financial planning attempts to achieve a balance between inflow. The whatever is the outflow, that is you have decided in advance whatever is the outflow of the funds. Where you are going to put your funds is already decided. Now you have to decide according to the outflow where are you going to where are you going to source your funds from. The inflow should always be in the balance of outflows, because if there is an imbalance there will be a problem of over or under capitalization of funds. Okay, adequate liquidity is ensured throughout the year. This will increase the reputation of the company. That is, through financial planning, you also ensure that there always should be adequate liquidity in your organization. Liquidity, that is, there should be cash, there should be assets that can be easily converted into cash in your organization. Suppose you want to buy something or you want to there is always requirement of cash, liquid cash which is not blocked in the organization for working capital for day-to-day business. And that's why through financial planning you have to decide in advance what kind of liquidity should be there in the organization. Okay, how it increases the reputation of the company is because if you have adequate liquidity you can make payments easily. You do not have blocked cash. So if you can make payments easily to the suppliers, to the creditors, that means it will ensure that your people are happy with your organization and thus increases the reputation of your company. Next point is cost of financing is kept to the minimum possible and scarce financial resources are used judiciously. Cost of financing. Okay, so what is cost of financing? Cost of financing is your cost, that is the dividend, the interest paid, the dividend paid on equity shares, preference shares, the interest paid on debentures, bank loans. These costs can be kept to the minimum possible if you already plan your finances. That is, suppose the debentures cost less than the equity shares, that is the interest is less than the dividend, then you would try to inculcate some debentures also in your capital structure, so that there is a balance between how much dividend you are paying and how much interest you are paying. So it is kept to the minimum. Suppose the interest is 14%. Suppose the dividend is 14% and the interest is 6%. So if you have all equity in your organization, then you will have to pay an overall dividend of 14%. But if you include some debenture also in your capital structure, then some dividend you have to pay for 14% and some interest you have to pay for 6%. That is, you are financing the same amount but you're keeping the cost of financing to the minimum. Okay, and the scarce resource that you are having in the organization, that is the scarce funds that you have in the organization, can be judicially used if you have already planned for where they are going to be utilized. Next is financial planning serves as the basis of financial control. The management attempts to ensure utilization of funds in tune with the financial plans. So what financial control is, like any other control, financial control is that if there is any deviations between the what was the standards and what is the actual. Then you have to make a control system. Suppose, for example, you had to invest 10 lakh rupees in a plant. You had to spend 10 lakh rupees in forming a new plant, in starting a new plant. Okay, but actually you've spent around 20 lakh rupees in starting that plant. So here there is a huge deviation of 10 lakh rupees, right? So you will require financial control here. Now financial control can be operational when you have financial plans. That is, financial plans would be your standard, that is the 10 lakh rupees that you intended to invest in the plant is your financial plan. How did you reach the amount of 10 lakh? That is, you planned and you researched about it, that how much money will be required in starting a new plant, and then you came up with an amount of 10 lakh rupees. Okay, so that 10 lakh rupees, that is your standard, is coming from your financial planning. Okay, and then if you have spent 20 lakh rupees, then deviations can be measured according to what was your plan, what is the actual money spent, and where you have deviated from the plan. Okay, so this is the gist of what financial planning is in an organization, why it is important, what are the determinants of financial planning. Next, let's move on to sources of finance. Okay, so the sources of finance we will discuss in next class.